Hey, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and I'm sorry I've been gone for a few days, but Halloween is a really busy time for me, man. Y'all don't understand, man. It's like the 8-foot, 9-foot, 12-foot animatronics, all of that. I and my whole family, really, we don't play about Halloween. But I'm back now. Probably upload a video, maybe like to members only. I may even start a separate channel for Halloween stuff because we make stuff as well too. But we're here to dive into everything Commanders from the past few days because I've been gone for a couple of days and I feel like we need a quick catch up before I start live streaming this game later on tonight at 8:15 p.m. But Jaden Daniels is back. Treylon Burks making his debut. Kupp is out because, of course, we got to dive into the injury report for both teams, the Commanders and the Seahawks, who we're playing against tonight. And we have some Terry McLaurin, so Deebo Samuel, Laramie Tunsil updates on top of a lot of other ones. And I have a lot of more information on top of that as well. Like Cliff and Joe Jr. gave some really interesting quotes a few days ago as well that I really want to dive into. But before we get into everything, make sure you still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, and still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this. So make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for supporting every video, for staying so patient with me, you know what I'm saying? Again, me going a couple of days and not uploading, really weird. It was even really weird to me, like, while it was happening, but I just could never find the time or the energy to do it. But now I'm officially done with Halloween stuff for at least the next couple of weeks before we got to figure out how to put this all away. Either way, though, shouts out to my late night crew that is going to watch this even after the game. That's insane in itself, just because a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about is going to pertain to this game tonight. Of course, shouts out to Watch to the End Gang, man. Really appreciate y'all. And shouts out to Noti Gang as well. This there immediately when I release these videos. Now let's go ahead and dive into this video right now. Let's get it. Adam. All right, let's start with the leader of the team, the face of the team. Jaden Daniels is officially back. He will start Sunday night. Again, I will be live streaming this game tonight versus the Seattle Seahawks. 5 is back, y'all. And shouts out to Disco because he brings up an interesting point, and I agree. He said, I have a gut feeling that Jaden Daniels is about to remind the NFL who he effing is this Sunday. I don't know. I do have this feeling in my gut that is like, I think he's going to show out, bro. It may not be the perfect game, and who knows if we win or not, but I think Jaden Daniels is going to go out there and remind people, hey, I am an MVP candidate. I am one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and I am at least the best quarterback in the NFC. I think he's going to make those type of plays. I definitely agree with Disco there. Of course, we're going to dive into some of the weapons that he's going to have at his disposal. I have the Terry update, Deebo Samuel update, and of course, we got to talk about, like, spend a nice solid amount of time breaking down this whole Treylon Burks debut that's coming up as well. But the NFL, remember, I don't know if y'all noticed, NFL fined Commanders linebacker Frankie Louvu almost $50,000 for his hip drop tackle on Chiefs tight end Noah Gray. No flag was thrown. The reason I'm bringing this up now is because both of Jaden's injuries that have happened this season have come on hip drop tackles, and not only no penalties called in the game, but no fines. At least, you know, the Frankie Louvu one, it wasn't called a penalty in the game, but they went back and looked over it and then gave him a fine for it. None of Jaden, a lot of people keep talking about Jaden Daniels so injury prone. It's happened both times this season on plays that the NFL is trying to outlaw, but the NFL isn't doing a good job trying to outlaw it and actually going through with their rules, because even after they review games, they haven't even been given suspensions on the back end for these plays. So Jaden Daniels, bro, as long as the NFL isn't out to get you, as long as the NFL isn't selling you, the refs selling you, the NFL committee when they go back and rewatch the replays to see who needs to get fined and stuff, as long as none of this crazy stuff is going on, he's hooping. I mean, they even going back to the Cowboys game, we had a chance to make that game within 5. Then Jaden Daniels gets hurt on like a crazy accident where like our offensive line was blocking so well that day, so well, and then that one play they let a blitzing linebacker come through and block, and then it's like some sort of a hip drop tackle, and we go from potentially making it to within 5 to potentially we ended up down 19 soon because it was a pick 6 by Marcus Mariota just a couple of plays later. And even if our defense could have just held before halftime, we actually had a chance to take the lead on that Jaden Daniels drive before he got hurt. So it's just like so many little things that add up to such big consequences for us, and I think Jaden Daniels is going to be back. Him being back is going to be a huge help for us. And speaking of Jaden Daniels, I mean, look at him right here. This is him practicing earlier this week heading into the Seahawks game, and I ain't gonna lie, bro, that combo of the helmet in the all black is actually really crazy, bro. That might be an elite uniform combo. Actually, it'll take a little bit of time, just a couple of minutes to really dive into like how good this looks, bro. Shouts out to Rep the District. First of all, just talking about the helmet alone, he said the stripes need to stay the end. I agree. Stripes on the helmet look amazing, bro. We need these helmets every time we play every game forever, in my opinion. And shouts out to Rio. I completely agree. He said the cleanest article in uniform here is the black practice jersey. This all black is so clean. It looks even better than the actual black jerseys we play with on game days. And then shouts out to David Harrison. He said a great look at the new lids the Commanders will be wearing this weekend, as you can take a look on the screen right now. He said he talked to a few players and they all love them. And he said that I agree. I love the helmets as well, bro. This helmet is clean, bro. You know, you look good, you play good. We'll see if that ends up, you know, boding well for us as you know, later on tonight. But and then I like this picture as well that was uploaded directly from the Washington Commanders, and I feel like they've been killing it ever since I've been gone, man. Their media team has been killing it all week, bro. And I just love how happy Deebo and Ja'Cory look right here, aka Bill, man. They look like they're ready. Like, this team is not down and feeling woe is me. They feel like any Sunday, any chance, bro. So they look like they're ready and excited to potentially go get this dub versus the Seahawks and potentially turn this season around, man. I really think that we can. Now, also, speaking of that, Sunday's game at Northwest Stadium, it will be in Landover, Maryland. This is a home game for us. It's already been sold out. So we're going to have a lot of fans here, and we've already talked about it on the Commanders Kings. This is probably your last chance, Commanders, to keep selling out the stadium and having a majority of Commanders fans. You lose this game, I don't know what happens in that Lions game the next week as far as us filling up the stadium with a bunch of Burgundy and Gold fans. So y'all better win this tonight, bro. Also, the Commanders will be wearing their Super Bowl era unis. We're going to talk about that, and I'm going to show y'all that later. And also, we'll retire Ark Monk's number 81 jersey at halftime, bro. If you don't do it for nothing else, Commanders, tonight versus the Seahawks, at least do it for Art Monk. Now let's dive into other Washington injuries and roster news as well. So if you take a look at this injury report right here, Laramie Tunsil and Johnny Newton are both questionable and both have chances to play. It's not guaranteed that they will play. It's neither guaranteed that they will not play. John Bates is also questionable, but I think he's likely to play as well. The only players that have been ruled out are Terry McLaurin and tight end Colson Yonkov. And speaking of Terry McLaurin and the wide receivers, first of all, Mike Garafolo said that Jaden Daniels is returning with as healthy of a Deebo Samuel as he's had in some time. So that's really interesting to hear that this is the healthiest Deebo Samuel has been in probably a few weeks, even going back to the Bears game where he was kind of like a shell of himself, or maybe even the game before that. You know what I'm saying? We haven't seen Deebo Samuel fully be himself since arguably that Chargers game that we whooped up on the Chargers, right? And maybe there's no coincidence that Deebo Samuel not as healthy going into these other games, where the Bears game shell of himself, Cowboys game didn't play at all, and the Chiefs game, I mean, somewhat healthy, but probably not as healthy as he was against the Chargers, which is the point that Mike Garafolo is making, that this is the healthiest Deebo Samuel we've seen in a while. That may actually bode well in the field for us. You'll probably even see it. You'll see with the fact that he's getting more carries, more targets, and things like that. He hasn't been a true deep threat, like a true wide receiver down the field threat since that Chargers game, and I think the fact that he has been somewhat hurt, even if he has played against the Bears, and even last week against the Chiefs, he hasn't fully been himself to allow him to take parts in those different aspects of the offense and things like that. Route running, deep ball threat, getting the ball out of the backfield on handoffs and reverses and things like that. So I think we're going to get a better version of Deebo Samuel as well moving forward. Then now also moving on to Terry McLaurin. Ian Rappaport did a whole tweet and a whole 1-minute video that was uploaded through Twitter saying from NFL game day morning, and this was earlier this morning, today, Sunday, the Cowboys are in the market for an edge rusher before Tuesday at 4 p.m. Meanwhile, the partner while we're here, Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin wasn't placed on the injury reserve, which is a good sign that, maybe he will not have to miss 4 weeks. We'll see. But he's out this week. And then they also went ahead and said that he's likely out next week. And there's a chance that he misses the Dolphins games in Madrid as well. So that's a whole 3 weeks of Terry McLaurin being out after re-injuring himself against the Chiefs. If he's not playing tonight. We already know that. There's a chance he doesn't play against the Lions. And now they're even saying that maybe even the Dolphins game after that, he may not play. Then after that, you have a bye week. And then you return back on my birthday, November 30th, to play the Denver Broncos at home as well. So apparently, Terry McLaurin is likely to miss next week's game, and possibly even the Madrid game. And Disco even quote tweeted and says, see, this is why I don't listen to Dan Quinn anymore, when he says, I don't think it'll be anything that'll keep him out long term. Because it sounds quite long term. I mean, then again, what does he mean by long term? Is he saying out for season, or is long term for him a few weeks? The way he's wording it from all this week, every time he's spoken, it sounds like, well, you don't have to worry about Terry McLaurin missing the season is what it seems like what he's saying by long term. But he's going to miss some games. You know what I'm saying? But shouts out to Dan Quinn because he never outright lies. He just more so withholds information and keeps things very general. And then you got to take from it what you can. But shouts out to Josh Taylor, though. He brings up a good point. He said, for people saying to injure reserve Terry McLaurin, remember he would miss 4 games, not 4 weeks. He wouldn't be back until the Giants game, December 12th, if that's the case, because 4 games also includes the bye week. And so that bye week also takes up another, technically an extra week that doesn't count towards that 4 weeks. So that's ugly, bro. At that point, bro, don't even IR him. I mean, you didn't IR him before and he already missed 4 games. Why start now? I mean, it'd be nice to have that roster spot to use elsewhere, but at this point, man, that could get really ugly. But is that true for real, though? Like, the bye week does not count towards IR weeks? That's interesting if so, man. That's scary. Now, moving on to the Seattle Seahawks side of the injury report. And as you can already see, they have a lot of outs as well. They're still not as hurt as us because, I mean, our injury reserve list is ninja scroll like. So even though they had wide receiver Jake Bobo and guard Christian Haynes and safety Julian Love and tight end Eric Saubert and wide receiver Derek Young, all of those guys are out. Their injuries still aren't as bad as ours, but they do have injuries. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to say and act like the Seattle Seahawks are like a perfectly healthy team. They have some things that they're fighting through as well. And then on top of that, defensive tackle Jaron Reed is already questionable. He's probably going to play, but he's questionable. Meanwhile, Cooper Kupp, you see that questionable, but they already announced last night that Cooper Kupp, even though he was listed as questionable for Sunday night due to a heel and a hamstring injury, is unlikely to play versus us. And then earlier this morning, I believe somewhere I saw that they already officially named him out. So the Seattle Seahawks will not be at full strength versus us. I mean, Cooper Kupp wasn't like this super crazy wide receiver 2 this season anyway. So we were going to focus most of our attention on stopping Jackson Smith and Jigba. But then again, how well has that gone for any defense that the Seattle Seahawks have played this year? Jackson Smith and Jigba right now is leading the NFL in receiving yards. And I want to remind y'all that he had a bye week this season compared to other receivers that have yet to have a bye week. We haven't had our bye week. A lot of teams around the NFL have yet to have a bye week. And yet Jackson Smith and Jigba is still leading the NFL in receiving yards. It is scary. And teams have known that going into games and still haven't been able to stop them. So yes, it's of course helpful that Cooper Kupp is hurt for the Washington Commanders, but it's not the end all be all. It's not like, oh, okay, well now we can focus on stopping Jackson Smith and Jigba and we're going to do so. You know, hopefully you can limit him some, but he's just balling out to the point that I don't know if you can stop him. You just hope that, you know, limit him just a little bit more than other defenses have done this season. So again, the Seahawks aren't at full strength, but I mean, you don't necessarily have to be at full strength to take advantage of how hurt we are. You know, like I keep saying, I think we're the most hurt team in the NFL, especially when it comes to like strong contributors. We're not talking about backups and rotational players. We're talking about pure starters across the board, offense and defense. So, hey man, they have injuries, but we're probably even down worse when it comes to injuries, I feel like. So it's not like it's going to be a cakewalk because Cooper Kupp is out. So, hey, Commanders, be prepared and get ready. And speaking of injuries, we also have some long-term injury updates that I wanted to give y'all. Like, most importantly, Tom Shad said that safety Will Harris with a fractured fibula has been back at the facilities in the last recent weeks and was working off to the side at practice this morning. He was talking about all the way back on Halloween morning. He said it's been remarkable to see his healing, coming back and running. That was a quote from Dan Quinn. So maybe you do get Will Harris back not soonish, because he hasn't even hit the practice window, the 21-day window to start practicing before you got to come off of IR. But maybe after the bye week, you get your starting safety, Will Harris, back, who was our tight end eraser before he got hurt. I don't think there's any coincidence that tight ends have been eating up our defense ever since Will Harris got hurt. So getting him back could be a huge help. And if we can beat the Seahawks tonight, maybe make things interesting versus the Detroit Lions and then handle business against the Dolphins, maybe by the time we get everybody back, maybe Terry comes back after the bye week, maybe we get Will Harris back after the bye week, maybe we can get this season turned around. We'll see. But one guy that I don't expect to get back after the bye week is Dorrance Armstrong. And Nick Javala updated us on the fact that going from his Instagram story, he let everybody know his surgery went well and he appreciated all the love and the prayers. So Dorrance Armstrong looks like one of the guys that will actually, for real, be out for season. Even if we do make it into the playoffs, even if we make it it on a playoff run and we start to, stack some wins in the playoffs and try to go to the Super Bowl, I don't think Dorrance Armstrong will be back for any of that, which again sucks because he was 5th in the NFL in sacks before we lost him for the rest of the season. Now, before we dive into everything else that we got to discuss in this video, most notably Treylon Burks making his debut, shouts out to Sleeper, man. With them, you have a chance to 1,000 times your cash on daily fantasy football. And even though we don't have Terry, we do have Deebo, you have Jaden, and you have Bill. When you have those three, you could end up doing what you did against the Chargers. Remember, that's all we had against the Chargers, and Bill ran like crazy. Deebo was hooping. Now we have a healthy Deebo Samuel for the first time in a few weeks, and Jaden Daniels is back as well, man. And with those guys, you have a chance to pick on stats like touchdowns, passing yards, receiving yards, fantasy points, and more for, again, up to 1,000 times your payout on Sleeper. When you say 1,000 times, that's $1 into $1,000, depending on how you finesse it. And right now, new users can even get a free $20 without a deposit, like you see on the screen right now, on top of the already get a 100% match up to $100 using promo code SCORE, that's SCORE, or you can just click the link at the top of the description of this video and every video on live stream I'm doing all season, man. And of course, MLB just finished with their World Series. Congratulations to Los Angeles Dodgers, but also NBA, NHL, college football, college basketball. When the WNBA returns, all of those you can get into and have some fun through Sleeper with all of those sports as well. Now let's take a look at some of the picks that we could get into. I did this right before I started recording this video, and that's my bad. I'm over here talking. I ain't even had the screen ready for y'all, but I got it now, and I'm trying to turn 10 into 225. Bill's longest rush being over 12.5 yards, just one singular rush being over 12.5 at some point this game. I took Jackson Smith and Jigba's line from like low 90 something to like 80 plus. I think he'll get that against us. Not to say that they'll win the game. I think he can go out there and get 80 plus yards and we still win. Zach Ertz, I think his longest reception will be shorter than 15.5 yards. I'm not expecting him to get like a big time reception. I'm expecting him to get the ball a lot, but one singular reception of 15.5 or more yards, I don't see that for Zach Ertz. Chris Moore, his longest reception isn't 15.5 yards. We're good there. I doubt that happens. The kicker for the Seahawks, this is a purely Commanders and Seahawks leg, just to let you know, a leg right here. I expect him to make 2 field goals because I think our defense will play bend but don't break, where we allow them to move the ball quite a bit, but then they have to settle for field goals instead of touchdowns. I think that's how we win the game. Deebo Samuel, I think with him finally being healthy for the first time in a few weeks, it's not his first time playing in a few weeks, but this is his first time being considered healthy in a few weeks. I think he can get you 40 plus reception yards. I think he's going to get fed the ball a lot. Sam Darnold, all he has to do is throw for 1 passing yard. He's going to do that. And then Jaden Daniels, don't throw an interception. And I think this is an easy 10 into $225 if you ask me. And again, shouts out to Sleeper, because with them, you have a chance to 1,000 times your cash through them if you finesse it differently from me. So I played it a little safer. I'm just trying to turn 10 into 225, but if you want to be a little bit riskier, you could end up turning 10 into 10,000. Either way, though, let's go ahead and dive into the second half of this video, man. Let's get it. Shouts out to Sleeper, man. Yes, sir. Treylon Burks is finally making his debut, and I know a lot of people have given up on him. I just haven't, bro. He's too young. He's coming from the same draft class as George Pickens and, most notably Commanders-wise, Jahan Dotson, or even if you want to talk about next week's opponent with the Detroit Lions, Jamison Williams. You know what I'm saying? So he's still very young age-wise. There's still a lot of potential and talent in this guy, man. And just to let you know, the reason why we know he's going to make his debut is because yesterday, the Washington Commanders went ahead and elevated wide receiver Treylon Burks along with defensive tackle Sheldon Day, who played against the Chiefs last week. So when you elevate somebody from the practice squad for that game, they're playing. So Treylon Burks will make his debut versus the Seattle Seahawks for the first time in his Washington Commanders career, and I'm hoping it's a long and fruitful career, bro. I'm really excited about this guy, man. I think the talent is there. Mind you, he will be wearing number 13, which was the last person to wear that for us was Tay Martin. So shouts out to Treylon Burks for wearing number 13 for us. And then shouts out to Zone Runner. He brings up a great point, and I completely agree. Treylon Burks is a very talented player at 25 years old. He's 6'2", 230 pounds, and explosive. Those prototypes don't grow on trees. I completely agree. This is a guy made in the lab that you can't just find anywhere. And so why not take a chance on this guy to see what he has? I mean, it was a super low risk, high reward situation where all we had to do was sign him to our practice squad real quick, store him away for a couple of weeks for him to learn the playbook, and now he's finally making his debut. And I hope he and Jaden Daniels hit it off immediately, especially with Terry McLaurin not playing, Treylon Burks, Deebo Samuel, Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, maybe a little bit of Chris Moore, maybe even some Robbie Chosen, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. I don't think Robbie Chosen wasn't elevated from the practice squad, though, so I don't think he'll play. Treylon Burks is technically taking Robbie Chosen's place for that one little spot they allow for a wide receiver to be elevated going into games with all the injuries that we had. But Zone Runner finishes up by saying, I don't think I would be surprised if Treylon Burks is good in Washington with Jaden Daniels as his quarterback. I mean, I'm telling you, Treylon Burks finally having a real, actual, not cosplaying quarterback for the first time in his NFL career. I think that will matter. I think that does matter. I think Treylon Burks finally having a talented quarterback on the side, not only just a good, competent, again, somebody that's not cosplaying being a quarterback, but somebody that actually is. Not only just is Jaden Daniels competent, again, like I already said earlier, he's going to go out there and show you why he's considered one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, look, listen to this list of Ryan Tannehill on his last leg, Malik Willis, and this is my Westlake guy, you know what I'm saying? Same high school and all of that. He's only been halfway decent as a Green Bay Packers backup, but when he was the starting quarterback for the Titans, it was ugly. Josh Dobbs, it was not good. Will Levis was so bad, they went ahead and replaced him with Cam Ward immediately, bro. That is the line of quarterbacks that Treylon Burks has had throwing him the ball since he's hit the NFL. You can't tell me that Jaden Daniels isn't at least head and shoulders better than every quarterback that I just named, y'all, man. And y'all got to remember that Jaden Daniels had a game where 2024 version of Jamison Crowder and Olamide Zaccheaus last season had 2 touchdowns each in one game. In the same game, both of those guys had 2 touchdowns each. Jaden Daniels can throw the ball and make anybody look good, is my point. And Treylon Burks is not at least more talented than those guys, just naturally. You know what I'm saying? He may not necessarily be as nuanced, but if we're just talking about pure, God-given, born with talent, Treylon Burks doesn't have more than both of those guys combined. Come on now. And again, I'm not saying at all that he'll live up to his draft hype. But this is the guy that made the Titans feel comfortable with trading A.J. Brown to the Eagles. And then they were just like, well, we'll just replace him with Treylon Burks. So there must be something there. Mind you, coming out of the draft, a lot of people compared Treylon Burks to a more agile version of A.J. Brown. They felt like he was literally going to be a shiftier, quicker version of A.J. Brown coming out of the draft. I mean, here are like a list of his strengths coming from NFL Draft Buzz with him coming out of the draft. And mind you, this is the same class with Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, Drake London, Chris Olave, Jahan Dotson, George Pickens, John Mechie, Scott Moore, Christian Watson, just to name a few. And when it comes to like their grading scale, they gave him 100% as far as deep threats, arguably the best deep threat in the whole draft class. Intermediate routes, they gave him a 99%. Short routes, they gave him a 97%. His problem, hands were an 81%, which is still really good, but not great. And then his blocking was his worst trait, which was a 32%. But either way, his strengths, they said he has been used all over the field, including snaps as a back, like as a running back. Could easily adopt a role akin to Deebo Samuel in San Francisco, although he's even bigger than Deebo Samuel, which is interesting because now we have both of them on the same team, which is actually really crazy. He said a dominating deep threat, especially over the past 2 years, where we have given him a perfect deep threat grade. Again, that was not a mistake, some type of error on their part. They gave him a perfect deep threat grade coming out of the draft. Again, they use like all types of stats and things like that. They watch every snap, all of the film, and that's what they came away with right then. We need deep threat more than anything else right now. With Terry out, that's like the main thing we lose with Terry hurt. Our deep threat ability right there. Also uses huge frame and long arms to deliver quality, powerful blocks on defensive backs. So even though that was one of his weaknesses, they feel like at the very least he can block a defensive back. Has enough upper body strength and tenacity to be very effective as a downfield blocker. Is not shy about taking on his man, provides some pop, and will open up a run lane for his back at the next level. Again, this is considered to be a weakness for him, but at the very least when it's going against defensive backs, he can block. It's just don't necessarily expect him to do it against linebackers, edge rushers, and defensive tackles or anything like that. But hopefully you never put your wide receivers in those situations anyway. And he also has huge hands that measure at 10.75 inches across. By comparison, the biggest hands of any wide receiver in the 2020 NFL Combine was 10.5. He would have had the biggest hands out of that entire draft class if he came out that year. Also, top shelf balance and lower body strength to power through arm tackles. Has very good vision to set up his moves with impressive run after catch ability. So this is a guy like Deebo Samuel. Give him the ball anywhere in the backfield, short stuff, slant, dig, whatever, and he's going to make something shake outside of that. Screens, whatever you want to do. Reverses, all the Deebo Samuel stuff. He creates mismatches for his quarterback with large frame and long arms. Good body control to shield defenders and understands how to use his size to his advantage. He's the type of guy where he's faster than linebackers, but he's too big for DBs to cover. So either way, he's always open. He's one of those type of situations. He's also a fluid athlete with an explosive burst and speed to stretch the field and breeze past defenders. Has a quick first step and gets to top speed in a hurry. He was clocked in at an elite 22.6 miles per hour in week 3 of his final college football season, one of the fastest runs of any college football player that year. I know he ended up running a slower 40 time than people expected, but the film doesn't lie. Again, he reached 22.6 miles per hour in a run that he had week 3 of his final college season. Also, Burks is a smooth athlete with outstanding size and strength. He has a size, length, and strength to defeat press jams. You can't press him. Can make spectacular catches in contested situations. A decent open field runner with some agility and ability to break tackles as well. Also, shines on vertical routes, eating up cushion with long strides, and getting downfield before defensive backs can even turn their hips. He has a great combination of size, athleticism, and body control, and has been compared to A.J. Brown. A lot of people coming out of the draft kept constantly comparing him to A.J. Brown. And then he made Bruce Feldman's Freaks list at number 53, the freakiest athletes out of the entire college football landscape. He ranked them 53 out of all of them. Quote, Burks is also one of the strongest receivers in college football, benching 380 pounds, squatting 500, and power cleaning 320. So you could argue he's a stronger version of Deebo Samuel. So, and even potentially, if we're talking about top speed, even faster than Deebo Samuel as well. That's the talent that we're working with here. Of course, it hasn't lived up to that potential since he's gotten into the NFL, but that's the potential in talent here. That's the ceiling. We got to see where the floor is, but the ceiling is insane. And then even moving on from that, John Comm interviewed Treylon Burks on his podcast recently and asked him when he thought he'd be ready to contribute. Burks said, now. And mind you, this is before I believe that they even announced that he would be making his debut against the Seahawks. So I'm pretty sure he's happy and he's excited for this opportunity. Also, JP Finley said that he had a good conversation with Treylon Burks back on October 29th. Told him that he loved his tape coming out of Arkansas, and he said, quote, it's still in there. You got it. And then JP Finley pointed out the fact that this guy broke his collarbone in 3 spots in August and says that he's finally fully healthy now, has a metal plate and screws in there now, so he should be good to go. Then passing game coordinator Brian Johnson said wide receiver Trey Burks had a, quote, really, really good practice Thursday. He said he'll definitely be a guy that can help us. You see the talent, you see the ball skills, quote. And he also said Burks' note-taking was as impressive as I've ever seen in drawing plays. So this guy is there mentally as well. He's super dedicated. He's super motivated. I think even if he doesn't live up to the more agile version of Treylon Burks or a stronger, faster version of Deebo Samuel, even if he doesn't live up to that, I think at the very least he'll still be a really good quality receiver. And I wouldn't be surprised if he ascends past Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane in the wide receiver depth chart sooner rather than later, bro. The talent is definitely there. Also, this isn't the first time that the coaching staff has spoken highly of Burks, and head coach Dan Quinn was excited to see when general manager Adam Peters made the move to sign Burks after a visit. Dan Quinn said, quote, so we're excited that Burks is here. He's somebody from Peters' side and the scouting that we're excited. The coaches were excited. So he and a couple of the trips that went to visit, and we just want to lay out, hey man, this is what it would look like here and how we would feature you to go. So we're very excited, unquote. So basically when he came for those visits a few weeks ago, they were showing him, hey man, we like your talent. If you end up wanting to come here, you're going to have to sit on the practice squad for a little while to learn the offense. But these are some of the ways that we want to feature you and utilize you because we know the talent's there. I don't know what the Titans were doing with you, but here with the Commanders, we have a plan for you, and we plan on utilizing that plan once you're able to go and you fully understand the offense, you're 100% healthy and all of that type of stuff. Now, moving on from that, I also have some other Washington news leading up to the Seahawks game as well. First of all, Sam Cosmi, I don't know if y'all saw this a while ago, way back on October 29th, Samuel Cosmi did not know that Terry McLaurin was ruled out for Sunday's game until he was being interviewed in the locker rooms and John Comm mentioned it and he was caught off guard. So that just shows you how much like different position groups don't necessarily communicate with each other, because he was like, he's out again basically. So I mean, and that's also just shows the frustration, like, man, Terry's out again, man, what's going on this season type of thing. Also, the Commanders tried out 3 pass rushers in practice back on the 29th, Malik Reed, DeMarcus Walker, and Kingsley Jonathan. So they are looking for help. We'll see what happens. And then also look at this graphic right here, bro. Look at the aesthetic of this matchup coming on tonight. Man, look at this. Look at this, bro. The Commander side looks the best, but that Seahawks side looks really good as well, man. This is an insane graphic. And mind you, shouts out to Sunday Night Football and everything like that. They're the ones that decided to, feature, like, even though they have 3 players on the left side and 3 players on the right side as well, the fact that Deebo's kind of like right dead center, I don't know, it just looks like it hits a little harder. Like we're just a better team, like we're supposed to win or something. Hopefully that bodes well for us. But again, the aesthetic of all of this is amazing. And mind you, Sunday night, tonight, will be the debut of the Super Bowl era alternate jerseys, and they're already trying to basically make it to where these jerseys take over the black jerseys, and at some point we never wear the black ones and we just only wear these on special occasions. And also just want to let you know that the captains for tonight are tight end Zach Ertz for offense, Lattimore coming off of his best game so far as a Commander, even though he didn't fall on that fumble. But other than that, best game as a Washington Commander since we traded for him late last year. And then Percy Butler is your captain for special teams, just to let you know. Also moving on, again, Cliff and Joe and even some of our players had notable quotes on Friday that I wanted to dive into, starting with Cliff Kingsbury talking about McLaurin's absence. He said, quote, "It's hard to step in and fill those shoes. Overall, as a group, we have to be more consistent. The margin for error gets smaller when Terry's not out there," unquote. And I completely agree, bro. Everybody needs to step up, and hopefully, Treylon Burks coming back, it will finally making his debut for us. Hopefully he can pick up some of the slack, but it's going to take other guys. Even if Treylon Burks goes out there and plays beyond what I expect him to do, if he goes out there and plays even better than what I hope, we're still going to need other guys to contribute. So Jalen Lane, Luke McCaffrey, it's time to step up. Well, Luke McCaffrey's been hooping. He just needs to get the ball more. Jalen Lane, you got to find some hands. You've been the one main disappointment in the wide receiver room outside of injuries. Luke McCaffrey, every time he's throwing the ball, he's making something shake. That sideline catch he had against the Chiefs was insane. Cliff Kingsbury also talked about finding a vertical attack without Terry McLaurin. Again, mind you, Terry McLaurin being out hurts us in a lot of different ways, but the main reason that our offense suffers and takes a step back without him out there is our lack of vertical threat. And that hopefully Treylon Burks can, be a part of that and make up for some of that specifically. But Cliff Kingsbury said, quote, "Terry's great at it. Noah Brown was great at it, but of course he's not healthy. You mentioned De'Ami Brown, some of the big ones. He's gone with the Jaguars. We don't have those guys. So I think we're trying to figure out who that is to really stretch the field and push that down the field. That was a big part of our offense, and we haven't been able to capitalize on that just yet this season. That was a big part of our offense last year. JD Daniels was known coming out of the draft as the best deep ball thrower in that draft class. Then he got to the NFL and was just hitting deep shots like it was nothing. Started when his first preseason game, went out there one possession, his freshman year, his rookie season, immediate deep bomb to De'Ami Brown, and then throughout the regular season, he kept showing that deep ball threat. We haven't been able to take advantage of that outside of really the Luke McCaffrey throw against the Chargers, because we just haven't had a lot of deep threats out there to consistently try it. Also, Cliff Kingsbury talked about Chris Paul earning his starting left guard role over Brandon Coleman. He said, quote, "Yeah, Chris has earned it. He's playing at a high level, and I think that's just the bottom line. It's not that we're down on Brandon, but Chris has just performed at that level," unquote. So they're basically saying that Brandon Coleman hasn't done anything that's bothered them in any way. It's just that Chris Paul has just been that good. Now, I still feel like for Chris Paul to even get the consideration to start, something happened. Something off the field happened between Brandon Coleman and his coaching staff or whatever in some sort of way. But Chris Paul has definitely earned it. A lot of people still, like I said, a lot of the guys that watch the All-22 film that are doing the grades and stuff like that feel like Chris Paul has been our best offensive lineman, including Laramie Tunsil, since he's come in to start over Brandon Coleman. But you saw Brandon Coleman have to come in place of Laramie Tunsil against the Chiefs mid-game after Laramie Tunsil got hurt like very early in the game, and he played pretty well over there. Shouts out to Cliff Kingsbury for adjusting the offense around the fact that Brandon Coleman was out there, though, because that don't let that just go without being noticed, that Brandon Coleman is a good left tackle, a good offensive lineman, period. Left guard, left tackle, whatever you want. But I noticed that when Brandon Coleman came into the game, we had our wide receivers chipping edge rushers more often. Laramie Tunsil is usually out there on the option. He doesn't get a lot of help. Brandon Coleman needs help. He's still a good player, but Cliff Kingsbury knows that, okay, when Brandon Coleman's at left tackle for you, maybe our wide receivers and tight ends need to help him a little bit, just a little bit. And oh wow, I just saw Dylan Raiola will miss the rest of the season with an injury. Oh, I didn't even know. I didn't watch that game at all, so I didn't know about that. But either way, moving on, Tom Shad asked about the recent run game issues. Cliff Kingsbury pointed out to a few factors. He said, namely, defenses stacking the box with wide receiver injuries and the team trailing and having to chase games. So hopefully now having, and I've been saying this for weeks, having a healthy Deebo Samuel, finally. Hopefully Treylon Burks takes that next step. Hopefully Jalen Lane learns how to catch a pass, and hopefully we just target Luke McCaffrey a little bit more often. That will force defenses to take some guys out of the box, and then Bill can go right back to doing what he did all the way back in that Chargers game, bro. And then now moving on to the defense. Joe Wood Jr. said that they had a cage rush called on that 4th and 2 on Kansas City's first drive of the second half, and somehow Mahomes still got outside, and Witt said that play peed him off the most, pissed him off the most out of any play of the entire game. I thought that was pretty funny, and it just goes to show that, you know, I'm not leaving Joe Wood Jr. of like all blame from how this defense is playing, but sometimes he's called the right play and players just haven't executed it well enough. But again, I blame injuries more than anything else. I blame injuries more than I blame the coaches and the players themselves. But either way, moving on, Joe Wood Jr. talked about the speed and hit power of Jordan McGee, Tyler Owens, and Jeremy Reeves that they brought to the defense, with them getting a prominent role against the Chiefs. He said, quote, "When you play well, you get more opportunities. It's going to be hard to get Jordan off the field, so we have to make sure we can find roles for him. Same as T.O., as in Tyler Owens. Tyler Owens is a guy that has a lot of hit power to him and a lot of speed," unquote. I'm just happy to hear that those guys are going to continue to play a lot. We need them out there as much as possible. Also, Witt said that he liked how Jeremy Reeves was playing again as well. He said, quote, "He really played a really good game, coming up, playing physical. He made some big plays and hits against the Chiefs, bro. So we're going to need a lot more from that from him in this upcoming Seahawks game tonight as well." Joe Wood Jr. also said that he's concerned about Johnny Newton and his availability for Sunday. If Johnny Newton can't go, that's going to suck, bro. He did not participate in practice this week, and if he can't play, that takes away one defensive tackle that they've used on edge because of all the defensive end injuries. Like, just to think about that. Johnny Newton's, if he doesn't play tonight, not only does that hurt the defensive tackle situation, but we're so down bad at edge rusher that we've had to use Johnny Newton, who is a defensive tackle, as an edge rusher on some plays. I noticed live. I pointed it out during my live stream of the Chiefs game. Is that Johnny Newton standing up at edge? Not only as the edge rusher, but standing up, not even one hand on the ground. Like, that's how down bad we are at edge rusher, with how injuries have really hit us, to the point that we have a defensive tackle in Johnny Newton, second year defensive tackle, having to play straight up edge rusher for us, bro. And if he can't go, now we've not only lost depth at defensive tackle, of course, because he is a defensive tackle, but that's another edge rusher, a pseudo edge rusher that is now out potentially in this game. We'll see. But he also said that we're going to have to get more snaps from Von Miller on early downs to help out if that's the case. And that's not a recipe success for us, bro. But also, speaking of edge rusher, he said that he has been largely limited at third down work this week. And Tashawn Reed asked him if he could see his role increase in all of Washington with all of injuries that's going on with the edge rusher group for Washington. And then Von Miller said, quote, "I'm all for it." So we'll see how that goes. And speaking of, edge rushers speaking, hey man, Jacob Martin hooped against the Chiefs, bro. He's been hooping the last couple of weeks versus the Cowboys and the Chiefs. If we're talking about somebody that needs to play more, it's him. Even though both he and Von Miller should not be on the field in obvious rushing situations, running situations where a team is running the ball, in obvious passing down situations. Right now, Jacob Martin, especially with Dorrance Armstrong hurt, Jacob Martin is our best pass rusher on the team, and it may not even necessarily be close. It probably is by far. But hey, man, with our edge rusher situation, again, with Johnny Newton hurt especially, sounds like Jacob Martin's going to be out there on some rundown situations, which sucks because now he'll be, his stamina will be low. He'll be a little banged up when it is time for him to rush the passer. So hopefully we can get some help as far as stopping the run edge setting wise, so that Jacob Martin can go out there and do what he needs to do as often as possible. Shouts out to Chuck G on Twitter too. He said, whatever Jacob Martin sniffed before the game on Monday, pass that around the locker room, bro. He was literally our best player on defense against the Chiefs, bro. It was crazy. We need more of that, but again, it's going to be hard to get more of that from him if you're asking him to be out there all the time, and especially on run stopping plays, which is not his forte. Also, Alex Flum talked to Tyler Owens and talked about him showing his flashes with his role as it's growing with the team and things like that. And of course, he has to get ready to face Seattle Seahawks, Jackson Smith and Jigba. But what's interesting is that Owens and Jackson Smith and Jigba grew up together in Dallas, even playing 7-on-7 football together. So if anybody knows him, it's him. So maybe Tyler Owens is secretly like our secret weapon, I guess, against Jackson Smith and Jigba. Maybe he knows his tendencies enough to where he was even in like the meetings pointing out this is what he likes to do, this is what he doesn't like, things like that. Also, I saw that thing going viral of Deron Payne asking who is Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, maybe, he doesn't watch enough film on the wide receiver room to know him. Maybe he was dead serious. Maybe he was joking, poking a bear. I don't know, but I thought it was funny because Peckin6 on Twitter said, well, Witt might have to drop Deron Payne back at this point. You never know. So maybe Deron Payne should be watching some tape on Jackson Smith and Jigba. He might be out there man-on-man, one-on-one coverage out there with him, no safety help, knowing how this season's been going. And then also, before we get up out of here, in random news, the Commanders did send 3 scouts to that Indiana-Maryland game that went down yesterday. Also, It was reported that the Commanders had scouts at Arizona State's practice last week, and you know who they went there for. If they were going there for anybody significant, it is that Jordan Tyson wide receiver out of Arizona State. They're starting to become a wide receiver factory these last couple of years now, bro. You could argue he's wide receiver 1 coming into this draft, bro. At, was he like 6'2", little over 200 pounds, probably runs a sub 4.5 somewhere in the 4.4s or something like that, bro. He's probably going to end up being wide receiver 1. Even if he's not wide receiver 1, he's going in the first round. He's that talented, bro. So I'm assuming that if we sent some scouts to their practice, because I think he's hurt right now. I don't even think he's playing in games, but they went ahead and sent some guys to that Arizona State practice to evaluate him. Watch out, we may be considering wide receiver in the late first round. We'll see though. But yeah, man, that's it of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you about everything discussed in the video. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Again, shouts out to my watch to the end gang, man. If you're still watching this video, you still hear me and see me this late in the video, really appreciate you personally. So shouts out to my watch to the end gang, shouts out to my Noti gang that pulls up immediately after I release these videos, and shouts out to my late night crew that a special shouts out to y'all, because if y'all are watching this after the Seahawks game, that's really interesting. Some of this news, a lot of this news applies to that. Some of this news matters even outside of that game, but to watch this after the game, even though a lot of this applies to what's going to happen in the game, I really appreciate that on top of it. Of course, leave a like and a well, and of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Really appreciate y'all. I'm going to catch y'all later. I'm out.